Whispers in the void. The stars no longer twinkled near the rim. At least not where the human warship floated. It didn't flash lights, send messages, or open hails. It simply drifted, like a ghost in space. And still, the entire sector whispered about it. No name, no ID tag. Only one message echoed in deep space comms from a frightened cargo runner. We saw it, and fear dared not speak. The warship had appeared over Sector 549 2 cycles ago. That was where the mining station of Kalor used to be. Now it was just dust. Ships passing near the coordinates sent silent footage, brief flashes of black, metal, glowing red lines across the hull, and a stillness that made even machines pause. Admiral Karth of the Valari Republic sat silent in the war chamber, staring at the reports. His fleet had dominated this quadrant for 50 years. They had brought order to chaos. Rebels were crushed, smugglers vaporized, and planets taxed into obedience. But this thing in Sector 549 didn't obey. Have we confirmed its origin? Karth asked, voice dry. A younger officer replied, nervous. Still unmarked, Admiral, but the ship's shape and engine signatures match old Earth records. Pre-evac designs. Possibly human. Humans? Karth scoffed. Extinct, or hiding in their deep void colonies, they wouldn't dare. Sir, the station was obliterated in one shot. Plasma signatures unlike anything we've seen. And no message, no demand, no negotiation. A cold silence followed. If it was human, and if they had built something that powerful again, the Valari were in trouble. Far from the conference table, on the shadowed deck of the warship, a tall figure stood in silence. The bridge was dim. No sounds of chatter, no beeping consoles, only the soft hum of the ship's massive core and the occasional whisper of systems checking in. The crew didn't speak much, not because they were afraid, but because they didn't need to. Each one of them had been chosen, trained, and prepared, not for defense, not for war, but for one thing only, judgment. This wasn't a ship of exploration, it was retribution. The captain, a man with a scar running down one side of his face, finally spoke. Status. A woman at the console answered, calm and steady. All systems, ready. Next jump in 12 minutes. Target, Valari Patrol Outpost, 20 ships. No prisoners, he said. No signals. Understood. They were not here to be known. They were not here to bargain. They were here because humanity had waited long enough. The ship, called the Quiet End, had no official name in the galaxy's records. It was built in secret, deep inside a broken asteroid belt. Forged with dark metal and anger, guided by minds sharpened by betrayal and history. The generation that now served on it, young, cold, brilliant, had grown up on stories. Stories of how Earth had been pushed, humiliated, nearly broken by alien rule. How the so-called peace agreements had cost humanity their home, their voice, their pride. Now this generation had built a ship to answer, and space would learn what fear truly meant. Silence before the storm out in the far edges of Valari-controlled space. Patrol Outpost Theta 9 was calm. Dozens of sleek silver ships hovered nearby, scanning for pirates or rogue smugglers. The officers on board laughed, played cards, and boasted about their latest victories. To them, the galaxy was already theirs. No alarms rang, no warnings appeared, no blinking red lights, just one long silent minute followed by total darkness. Every screen turned black. Communications were cut. Engines stalled. Then, through the heavy silence, a red mark appeared on every console, just one line of code, in an ancient Earth dialect, translated crudely by the station's AI. We have not forgotten. That was all. And then the warship struck. The Quiet End did not fire from a distance. It arrived without a sound, without a signature, cutting through space like a blade. It appeared just above the main Valari command ship and unleashed a single pulse from its core. The blast didn't explode. It erased. The lead Valari cruiser vanished mid-broadcast, leaving behind only vapor and silence. Officers screamed, Ships tried to scatter, but one by one systems failed. Hulls cracked from within, pilots found their controls dead, and lights blinking their last. The warship didn't chase. It hunted. Back on board the quiet end, the crew worked in complete focus. No celebration, no pride, only purpose. "This is the third fleet in 2 weeks," said the woman at navigation. "They're still testing us," replied the captain. "Let them." The youngest officer among them, barely 20, turned from his console. "Sir, one Valari ship escaped. Frigate class, limping, but jumping." The captain nodded. "Let it run." "Sir, they need to talk about us. Spread the fear. We want them to tremble before we arrive." The crew understood. The fear was part of the plan. The warship wasn't just destroying ships, it was destroying certainty. Across the Valari Empire, news spread faster than ships could travel. First it was whispers, then rumors, then panic. Every corner of their territory now held eyes toward the dark edges of space, watching, waiting. Military leaders argued. Some claimed it was a new alien species. Others blamed human survivors from the outer colonies. A few believed it was only a myth. But the soldiers? The ones who had seen the red line? The ones who had heard the silence? They knew. This wasn't a myth. It was a warning. On a distant moon, in a hidden bunker filled with old humans who had lived through Earth's fall, a message arrived. One of the elders read it aloud. "Mission successful. Target destroyed. No human casualties. Awaiting. Next objective." Tears filled her eyes. "It started," she whispered. The new generation, the one raised in shadows, trained in silence, built for war, had finally moved, and fear itself had learned silence. A name in the dark high above the glittering capital of the Valari Empire, the Grand Council gathered. The room was carved from crystal and metal, shining with wealth and arrogance. Holograms of destroyed ships and silent footage from the last outpost played in the air. The Supreme Minister stood with his hands clenched behind his back, eyes fixed. "On the red line of code. We must respond," barked one general. "With what?" asked another. "That ship, whatever it is, ripped through our patrols like paper." "Then we call for allies. The Nulans, the Tirik, the eastern sectors. Someone will help." The minister turned slowly. "And tell them what? That we're being hunted by ghosts? That fear has taken root in our fleet?" No one answered. The truth was sharper than any weapon. They were afraid. And that fear was spreading. Somewhere deep in the void, the quiet end prepared for its next jump. Its hull carried no flag, no light, just the scars of battles no one had recorded. The captain stood at the viewing glass, eyes locked on the darkness, beyond. "Why haven't they retaliated yet?" asked the young officer again, watching data streams roll across his console. "They will," the captain replied. "But not with weapons, with lies, with offers. They'll try to talk. And if they do, we won't listen." He turned to the crew. "Bring up the list." A screen flickered, showing a long set of coordinates. Each one marked the site of a massacre, a betrayal, or a broken promise against humanity. Places where Earth colonies were once erased, where humans were enslaved or silenced. "These are not random strikes," the captain said. "We are teaching the galaxy a lesson they chose to forget." On the other side of the galaxy, a retired Valari historian once tasked with managing human archives unlocked an old file, a warning, long buried in the Empire's records. It spoke of Earth's final message before it vanished from the stars. We will return, not as messengers, but as judgment. Watch the silence. Fear the stillness. That is where we live now. Trembled as he read it again. This wasn't a new threat. It was a promise. Within hours, dozens of planets began preparing emergency protocols. Civilian ships were grounded. Military assets moved to central zones. The Valari Council sent out cautious peace signals to the old human colonies, pretending concern, pretending alliance. But no reply came. Only one signal was returned. On the same encrypted channel as the earlier red line, it said, We are not from your past. We are your consequence. Back aboard the Quiet End, the ship made its next silent jump. The target, a luxury Valari hub, once a place where Earth diplomats were humiliated and mocked before being exiled. This time the warship did not strike, immediately. It hovered, letting its presence be seen, and watched the station empty itself in terror. No weapons needed, no words spoken. Just the shadow of the human ship was enough to silence a city, and this was only the beginning. Cracks in the alliance in the grand halls of the Tyrrhic Assembly, panic bloomed like wildfire. Delegates argued, voices rising in sharp, clashing tones. Some demanded war, others begged for diplomacy. No one had seen the human ship, but all had heard the stories, and worse, the silence. The ambassador from the Valari tried to calm them. This is only one vessel, a ghost ship, a relic. But the delegate from the Rim Worlds slammed his fist down. Ghosts don't destroy fleets. That warship is precise, cold, and it hasn't missed once. The Tyrrhic leader leaned forward. You said it might be human? It matches their old tech, but far more advanced. We don't know for sure. Then find out, before it finds us. The Quiet End drifted now near the ruins of Echo 5 Station, a place where human refugees were once denied safety, left to die in deep space. Only a few had survived. Their stories had passed down through generations, stories that shaped the ones now aboard this ship. Begin scan, the captain ordered. Debris fields cleared. No signs of life. Shall we proceed? Negative. Transmit coordinates to the others. The crew nodded, knowing what it meant. Other ships like the Quiet End were out there, hidden, quiet, waiting for their signal. The captain looked at the scarred symbol etched into the deck near his feet. It was an old Earth emblem, burned into metal during the ship's creation. It had no flag, no slogan, just one word: never. Meanwhile, within a fortified Valari base, deep below the surface of their core world, a scientist unlocked a file she was never meant to see. It was called Project Silencer. Years ago, Valari forces had raided an old human world, stealing early designs of a new kind of warship, a vessel meant to operate in complete silence, immune to scans driven by dark energy. The project was abandoned when they failed to understand it, but the humans hadn't abandoned it. They had perfected it. Her hands trembled. She looked at the schematics again. They matched the Quiet End perfectly. They never stopped building, she whispered. They waited. Across neutral space, small colonies began switching off their beacons, afraid the warship might see them as enemies. The galaxy had always mocked Earth, dismissed humans as weak, broken, lost. But now every species was remembering just how dangerous humanity could be when they were quiet and angry. Some tried to send peace envoys. Others prepared their strongest, fleets. But all of them knew the truth deep inside. The warship was not outnumbered. It was right. Back in the warship's command center, a silent alarm blinked. One of the deep Earth colonies, the last known haven of human records, had been scanned by Valari intelligence. It wasn't an attack. Not yet. But it was a step too close. The captain's jaw tightened. Change course. We move now. Target. Sir? The Valari High Council Station. Time to speak without words. As the crew locked in the new course, a young officer looked out into the stars. They thought we were gone, he whispered. They were wrong, said the captain, and the stars around them dimmed once more. The wall of fire, the Valari High Council had called upon every ally it could reach. A grand fleet now hovered near the council station, over 200 warships of every size and species. Shields charged, weapons armed. Every eye focused on one dark section of space where the Quiet End was expected to appear. This wasn't just defense. It was a display, a show of force meant to remind the galaxy who held power. We've prepared every angle, said the fleet commander. Their stealth won't work here. If they show, we'll erase them. But there was doubt in his voice. Everyone felt it, because they weren't waiting for a normal enemy. They were waiting for something that didn't follow the rules. Hours passed. Then, all at once, the stars flickered, and the quiet end emerged. It didn't come in fast. It didn't fire. It just appeared, alone, facing 200 enemy ships. Inside the ship, the crew sat in calm readiness. "All vessels locked," said the weapons officer. "They've formed a wall." "They're scared," said the captain. "But they're still hoping we'll blink first." He tapped the screen. Time to remind them. The first strike wasn't physical. The warship transmitted a signal, 1 second long, a frequency known only to those who had studied Earth's last war. It contained no words, just sound, a deep, rising tone like the roar of a storm. Every species in the galaxy knew that sound. It was the same sound Earth's orbital defense had made just before it wiped out 3 invasion fleets during the final war. Now hearing it again, across so many ships, officers paused, some even backed away from their controls. A few tried to send messages back, but it was already too late. The quiet end moved, not with speed but with precision. It didn't aim at the closest ships. It went for the command chain. A pulse beam cut through the Valari flagship, tearing it in two like paper. Next, 3 more command vessels vanished in flashes of silent blue light. Dozens of ships scrambled to reposition, but found themselves blinded. Their systems jammed, their weapons misfired or didn't respond at all. The warship wasn't just fighting them, it was disabling their courage. On one Nulan destroyer, a young pilot screamed, "Why isn't it stopping?" "Because it's not a ship," the commander said quietly. "It's a message." One by one, ships began fleeing. Even elite forces broke ranks. The wall of fire shattered into scattered panic. And through the chaos, the quiet end moved slowly, deliberately, choosing targets like a surgeon, not a soldier. The final blast was aimed at the Valari High Council station itself. But it did not destroy it. Instead, it shut off the power. Every light, every control, every screen, dark. A second signal followed, text only. "We could have ended you. We chose not to. This is mercy." Back on the quiet end, the captain gave a final order. "Leave, orbit, jump to black space." "Not finishing them?" asked the officer. "No," the captain said. "Not yet. They must live with this, they must change. And if they don't, we come back, and next time, we won't whisper." The stars closed behind the warship as it vanished once more, and in the silence it left behind, fear didn't speak. It screamed. The truth beneath the silence. 3 days had passed since the quiet end silenced the largest Allied fleet ever assembled. No one had seen the ship since, but its shadow stretched across every council, every colony, every dark corner of space. Diplomats spoke in softer tones. Military leaders hesitated. Even warlords paused before issuing orders. The galaxy wasn't just scared, it was uncertain, and that uncertainty was cracking old powers apart. In a hidden sector, far from trade routes, a small data runner ship carried something dangerous: truth. On board was a lone investigator named Marn, a quiet man born on one of Earth's forgotten colonies. He had spent his life studying what the galaxy tried to erase, the rise and fall of humanity. And now he had something more than history. He had found the origin signal. The beacon used by the quiet end traced back to a specific location, an asteroid, field marked unsafe by every known map, but Marn didn't turn away. He headed straight for it. Inside the asteroid field, old structures floated, abandoned, rusted, forgotten by most, but not all. As his ship entered the center of the field, his sensors screamed. He looked up and froze. There were more. The quiet end was not alone. 6 other ships hovered in formation. Each had different shapes, different sizes, but the same design language, the same silent threat. They were the same class, judgment ships. Marn realized something horrible. The quiet end was not the beginning. It was only the first to be seen. Suddenly, his screen lit up. A message blinked. "You followed well. Now hear us. A voice followed. Calm. Cold. Female. We are the lineage. The generation born after silence. Trained beneath the ruins of Earth. We are not from your past. We are what came next. Marn trembled. Why show me this? Because the galaxy must choose. Peace is not an offer, it's the final warning, he asked. And if they don't listen, they will. Or they will vanish. The signal ended. The ships vanished. Marn was left alone, breathing hard, staring into the dark void. Back in Vellery space, the Council struggled to regain order. Some members wanted peace. Others wanted revenge. But their own citizens were losing trust. Small riots broke out. Military units refused orders. Whispers of rebellion grew louder, and in those whispers one word kept returning. Lineage. No one knew what it meant, but everyone felt it. On the quiet end, the captain stood before his crew. Targets remain, but they are watching now. They know what we are. Should we continue? Asked the officer. The captain looked at the stars. We continue, until silence is earned. The warship powered up again, not with rage but with resolve. The silence that changed the stars weeks past. No attacks, no demands, no messages, just the memory of what the quiet end had done. Entire sectors remained silent. Trade stalled. Patrols vanished. Fear had changed form. It was no longer panic. It had become respect. The galaxy had seen what a single human warship could do. And worse, what it chose not to do. In the Neutral System Summit, leaders from once powerful species gathered in uneasy truce. For the first time in galactic history, the Velari bowed their heads at the meeting table. We cannot fight them, one minister admitted. And we should not try. The Tyrrhic ambassador nodded slowly. They gave us mercy. That speaks louder than war. But what do they want? Someone asked. No one had the answer, because the quiet end hadn't asked. For anything, not territory, not tribute, not revenge. It had delivered only reminders that humanity had not forgotten, that they could return at any time, that silence did not mean weakness. Marn, the investigator who had seen the truth, published his findings in every language, on every open frequency. He told the galaxy about the lineage, the children of Earth raised in the ruins, trained not for glory, but for clarity. He wrote one final line in his report. They are not ghosts of humanity's past. They are its sharpened future. On a distant moon inside a small academy built beneath an old Earth flag, new recruits trained under a black sky. They were not taught pride. They were taught patience. To strike only when needed. To speak only when silence failed. And to never forget that the galaxy once tried to erase them. Aboard the quiet end, the crew stood in formation as the captain gave his final words before the next long jump. We do not destroy because we hate them. We strike because they believed we were done. We remind them that peace must be earned and silence. He paused, then looked to the stars. Silence is our greatest weapon. The engines roared quietly to life, barely a whisper in space. Doing, warship vanished once more, and across 1,000 systems when silence fell, people looked to the stars with a single question. Is it them? And fear, true, deep, unforgettable fear, dared not speak their name, because now the galaxy knew. The generation that fear dares not speak commands the silence of stars.